Okay, now I'm alive on. Okay, now I'm also alive on Facebook too. Okay, yes, we're all doing good. So, we yesterday we went. Greg bought some property. This is how he ended up coming to Jacksonville. Was he had bought some property about it's about maybe about 45 minutes away from where I live. And he was planning to move there. And so, because he was moving there, he thought he would meet women in Jacksonville. And so, hence, he ended up going on Match and he and I ended up meeting. And because otherwise, I don't think we ever would have met. Hi, Lisa. How are you doing today? Uh, so, I am just so excited. I created something and that I'm sharing with you all. And I'll tell you more about it as we go along. But anyway, so yesterday we went there and we kind of hung around the pool and relaxed. And then you doing fine? Did you work today, Lisa? And Anita, how is your dad doing? My daughter called me. She's really, really upset because her father, which was my husband, I was married to. You retired, Lisa? Good for you. Lisa Lachey, you worked. Yeah. You work from home, right? Remotely? He's doing okay. He's hanging in there, huh? Well, anyway, my daughter called me. She was like just sobbing because her father, you work remotely. That's good. Um, their father, my kid's father, my ex-husband, is in hospice. And uh, it's a sad situation. And so my daughter was really upset. But my husband and I, we were married for 5 years. We planned both of our kids. We planned, and my daughter was born, and we were all happy. And then 3 years later, we had our son. And I thought I had like the picture perfect life. We had a beautiful home. We had a fenced-in yard. We had luxury cars. I had lots of jewelry, and young, like the American dream. And after we were married, I guess it was like 9 years, it all came crashing down. But the thing about my ex-husband that that I realized later, I think he had Asperger's, and I think he was on the spectrum. But anyway, when we divorced, he never cared for our children, never supported them financially. He got married right away, and he had one relationship after another, and he started drinking, and he just ruined his health. So he's only 6 months older than me, and he's in hospice, and he can't walk. He's he was in a nursing home. He couldn't walk. My ex-husband was 6'2", and it's just hard to believe this man that I was married to, who's the father of both of my children. We were married for 10 years, 5 years before we had kids. Thank you, Denise, who is in hospice. Like, I mean, he can't walk, he can't stand. So every time I think about it, it just makes me like, ugh. But anyway, so we're going to talk um, about being naive, and Greg and I were laughing about naive, and I just thought it would be worthwhile telling the story because a lot of you know part of the story, but you don't know what happened later. So the first thing is, I think, is that you could be very, I consider myself a successful but businesswoman. I have 7 or 8 employees. I've always had employees. I've been in management. Um, Although I'm hoping to make a 7-figure income very soon here. I've at least have made 6-figure incomes for various periods of time. So, I know how to run a business. I know how to hire people and manage people, and I know how to manage myself, in addition to the fact that I've been a coach for 30 years. So I primarily have been coaching lawyers and professionals and doctors, but just everyday people too. I've coached people from all over the spectrum, from young people to housewives to business people. But I primarily, my business has been around lawyers. So when lawyers come to me, they can have problems with their marriage, they can have problems with their business, they can have problems with their law firm, they can have problems with anything, their kids. So I'm very good, I'm gifted at coaching people, right? So it looks like, and women would come to me over the years. Now this was like I didn't date, and I would say I was pretty anorexic as far as relationships most of my life. And um but for me, I couldn't do it. It's because I had it. What I'm talking about is an invisible rule. Yeah. So we all have like this kind of invisible rule, right? So anyway, here's the story. So when after Greg and I got past the all in and we were dating, he asked me one day. He said, if you could have the relationship go any way that you want, uh, how would you like it to go? And I thought he meant it. I mean, I don't know say like meant it. Oh, here we are. Hi, Nicole, and hi, Vera. Glad to see you here. We have people on Facebook here too. So I believed that, I just thought, oh wow, he wants to know how do I coach people? I have a whole technique. I've been doing it since '87, and I now have a way, because I now have a way that I can help people at a very a different way, and I'll tell you about it later. But I've coached hundreds and hundreds of people. I mean, that's why I make a living. Make a six-figure income coaching people. So it's just what I've done. And but anyway, so back to my story. When he said, uh how would you like the relationship to go? Now he was just giving me a line that I realize now, but I thought he was like, oh, he wants to know how does he want the relationship to go. And so I said, well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to date for a year, and then after a year we'll get engaged. And then once we're engaged, we'll have a long runway. I don't want to like get married right away. Or if I'm not sure if I want to get married at all. I didn't really know if I wanted to marry him. I certainly don't want to get married to someone and get a divorce. But I thought, if we were engaged, that means that we were committed. We want to live, we want to build our life together, and hopefully it would work out. But I didn't want to jump into marriage, but I did want us to be engaged. I wanted to be that commitment. And so I thought we both agreed. I mean, I literally, when he asked me that, I thought he was asking me that. I told him, and we were both on the same page. Wow, this is what we're doing. He wasn't on that same page. Now, I do have to say the other thing, like why I didn't date for 20 years, is I bond. Hi, Marilyn, how are you? It's your birthday? Whose birthday is it? Whose birthday? Someone on Facebook, it's your birthday. Anyway, so I bond easily. That's another reason that I stopped being in relationships, because I was like, I bond. If I'm intimate with someone, I bond and I fall in love. I mean, that's just who I am. And that's why when I was 55 and I didn't date for 20 years, is like I can't do this. That's what I said. I can't do this because I can't casually date. I bond, I fall in love, and then I get hurt. So that's why I said I wasn't going to be in a relationship, because I was bonding and I would go get hurt. So, I met Greg, and like I said, I got a coach. Smart thing. If you're a coach, get a coach. Because what you could see for other people, you can't see for yourself. So anyway, when I did get the coach, and then when I met Greg, and I was like, I was talking to the coach, I said, I don't know. He doesn't seem like he's like my type. I don't know, and she just said, well, what if he was just your lover? And I was like, I had never been with somebody just to be a lover. Where are we headed and what are we going to do? Not like just a lover. So she said, could you do that? And I was like, well, I've never done it before, but I could try, just be with him, because to tell you the truth, he was the best I'd ever had, ever. And I was 75 at the time we met. It was like, whoa, it was chemistry, whatever it was. It was like flat, like light and lightning bolts, it was like all this stuff. And so I bonded with him, and I was a lover. To him, I was like a lover. And I went to him, I was like, we're all in. We're going there. So what if I could say I was 6 months ahead of where he was? You know what I mean? I was like, I knew where I wanted. I knew what I wanted, and I was 6 months ahead of him. And his head was doing what he was doing, and I thought we were on the same page, and we weren't. Now, as a successful business coach or a successful coach, you want to know where all parties are stand. You want to know where all parties stand, and you don't want to assume. But I assumed that we'd had that talk, which he was just, we were laughing about it the other night, because he was like, I said, I thought we were on the same page. He said, we weren't even on the same country. We weren't even in the same universe. So I was like, okay, we got it all. We had the talk. We know where we're both headed. And this is where we're going. So, when it is difficult, and probably, I don't know if any of you have had that, is you're one place in the relationship and they're somewhere else. And guys, and I know this for a fact, it takes men a lot longer to bond than it does women. Especially if it's an intimate relationship, we can bond a lot faster. Men don't bond that way. How many of you have been in a relationship and you had bonded and he wasn't? Say me if that's happened to you. If you've been in a relationship and you were bonded, yep, and he's not bonded. Yep. And that is a terrible feeling, because you're bonded and they're not bonded. But, Lisa and Anita, you kind of witnessed it. It was hard to not realize that he wasn't bonded, because he acted like he was bonded. Didn't it seem like he was, or was I in a bubble? Anita, Lisa, you all were there. Did it seem? He was there. He drove 3 hours every weekend to come to be my house. He spent every weekend at my house. He, took me on trips. We went out he paid for everything. I didn't see anything that said that he wasn't bonded. Not that I had that much experience. Ending it was the best thing you could do. Yeah. So I was bonded, but he did all the right things. He wanted, he did. And Anita, didn't he seem like he did all the right things? He was here. If you're if you're casual with someone, are you going to spend every weekend with them? Are you going to spend every holiday with them? Are you going to drive 3 hours every weekend? The first 6 months we were together, every weekend he was here. We went on dates. We had fun. So I was bonded, because and he did all the things that I thought someone who was bonded would do. I don't know how. I don't know if I don't know, but I'm just telling you what happened. I'm telling you my experience. The man you're with now are on the same page, and he lives 3.5 hours from you. Okay, Nicole. Yeah. Well, I felt that we were on the same page. He certainly didn't give me any hint that there was anyone but me. And he was spending every weekend with me. How could I think there was anybody else? So anyway, that's, but I guess I'm assuming, because now, now we talk about it, like, okay, so, um, I'm very independent, and so, and I love my work, so I didn't, think that, I wouldn't think anything. So, let me see. So I noticed that he was here. He had said he'd been in a relationship for 11 years. This is what he told me. He'd been in one relationship for 11 years and in another relationship for 2 years. So he is someone that gets in a relationship. He wants to stay in the relationship. And then it looks like he does everything he needs to do to be in the relationship, and someone who tells you that their job is to make you happy, which is what he did. He did everything he could to make me happy. So I assumed that we were on the same page going back there. Okay, so we come up on a year. We're coming up on a year. And I'm saying, okay, we're at a year now. And I'm thinking, we already discussed this. I think he did ask me. He said, if we didn't get engaged after a year, would you still keep seeing me? And I said, no, I will not keep seeing you. If we don't get engaged in a year, I'm not going to keep seeing you. And he just said, oh, okay. He just kind of asking, just testing the water. So then I started saying, well, let's start looking for rings. So he's like, oh, all the excuses. Oh, I got all these bills and blah, 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 blah. And so I said, well, I was not dissuaded because we had talked about it. It's in my mind, we had talked about it. So I said, let's look at rings. Well, when I looked at the rings, I could see what we were talking about financially for how much a ring would cost. And so I didn't like any of the rings. All the rings I saw he had, they were ugly. So I didn't like the rings. But I didn't tell him that. I just said, oh, okay. So then he was talking about woe is me, because Greg is very frugal and he likes to get the most for his money. So then I started looking myself, and I found a ring, and it was not as expensive as what he was looking at. So on New Year's Eve, because we met in March. So on New Year's Eve, we were out, because he's here. He's holiday week, Christmas. He met my kids. And so I told him I found a ring. So he was like, oh, you did? I said, yeah. So we're here in a dark club. I showed him the ring, and he liked the price, and he gave me his credit card, and I bought the ring. And then what he thought was going to happen was the ring was going to be delivered to his house. He'd have the ring, and he just bought the ring to shut me up. And then he was going to put it on the shelf. And then, like, I'm thinking about it, or when are we going to do it? But what happened was the ring ended up being delivered to my house. So when I got the ring, I kind of got ahead of myself, and I started wearing. I took the ring, I put on the ring. I loved how the ring looked. I was excited, and I never took the ring off. And so he thought I was going to give him the ring back. Well, he never got the ring. The ring was delivered to my house. He thought he was going to get the ring, and he's going to put it on the shelf, and then kind of procrastinate and drag his feet, because he wasn't bonded and he didn't know if he wanted to be engaged. He'd been single for 20 years. And but anyway, I started wearing the ring, and I started having delusional thinking, and I started thinking, oh, I'm already engaged. That was wearing the ring. And I got so carried away that I put the ring on TikTok. I was like, here's my ring, I'm engaged. He hadn't asked me yet. So his ex-wife was following me. And that was another thing, is that I noticed that, he still had, like, relationships with his ex-wife, who they'd been divorced for 20 years. And she was remarried for 15 years, but they talked often. And so she called, oh, when he had his surgery, I called her to say, oh, the surgery was fine. So he had these relationships with these women. And but anyway, she asked, are you engaged? He said, no, I'm not engaged. And she's like, well, Pamela had the ring on. And then he's like, oh my God. So he calls me and he says, that was very presumptuous of you. You got the ring on. And I was like, well, you bought the ring for me. you bought the ring. What was, yeah, you didn't ask me, but we talked about it. In my mind, we talked about it. And I just put the ring on ahead of time. So that was the assumption that I had. So he was really, really mad about it. He was mad about it. And I was laughing because I think somebody called it the DIY engagement. But anyway, we went along and we're engaged, right? And but you know, I I had what I call the invisible rule. And the invisible rule is I believe we all have an invisible rule. And that is we have certain coping way we cope or we adapt to certain things in our life. And we have these things that we do, and we don't even know we're doing it. So, with Greg, my invisible rule set me up. I set me up. And so the first thing is that I just started feeling, I started realizing we weren't on the same page. Like, we're not on the same page. And, we're not on the same page. And so what are we doing? Like, I'm doing this and you're doing that. So when I discovered my invisible rule, I was making decisions from something I didn't know I was making decisions or. How many of you have just found yourself in a relationship and it's familiar? And, this isn't what you really signed up for. So, long story short, because one of the things with Greg, I guess you could see, is that he knows how to do the right things. Like, he knows how to do the right, he's in his 70s. He knows he's very skilled at woman. He knows, what to do. And I personally had to leave. I had to leave the relationship. And and if you look on paper, it was like we had Christmas together. We spent Christmas Eve together. He bought me wonderful presents. We went out for Christmas Eve. We stayed at a hotel over on the beach. We did, all the things, but I felt like he wasn't all in. That was how I felt. I felt like he is not all in, and he's doing everything he can to keep me, but he's not all in. And I said, I have to take a 30-day break from him. I told him it was on New Year's Day. I said, okay, I need to take a 30-day break. So he said, okay, all right, I understand. You could take a 30-day break. So I took a 30-day break. And when I took the 30-day break is when I discovered my invisible rule. And it was not pretty. It was not pretty. Have you ever, and I'm especially speaking to Lisa and Anita, because they've been with me on the journey, is when, it's like you are living in a delusional world. You're believing like a fairy tale. We're in the fairy tale, and then we realize the fairy tale is not true. Have you, had that? You know what? You look back over everything from the beginning to end, and you realize that you were living in a fairy tale and it wasn't really true. And that's when the 30 days is like, I just relived everything that happened. And I realized that It wasn't really true. What I was believing wasn't really true. It wasn't true what I believed. I saw everything through rose-colored glasses. Rose-colored glasses. And that's how we can do. We can see life through rose-colored glasses. And uh and you don't ask the hard questions, or you let them get away without asking the hard questions. And that's on me. In any business deal, I would ask the hard questions. If it was a client, I wouldn't let a client not tell me what's the truth is. So you know those glasses well. So what? Yeah. Yeah, we have those rose-colored glasses, and we just see things, we interpret things the way we interpret it. When I look back, and you've experienced that, Lisa. Yeah. Uh, and then you have to sit down and you have to sit in it. And this is what I did. I sat in it. And I'll tell you what I sat in it more was, that's when I got off sugar. Remember, Lisa, I got off sugar? I got off sugar because for me, I don't drink alcohol, but sugar for me is like alcohol. I can't have sugar. So I was having sugar, and this is when I knew things weren't right. Because, we lie to ourselves. You know what I mean? We can lie to ourselves. We have these invisible rules that protect us, that keep us safe in our delusion or in our lies or fantasy. So how I really realized that something was wrong was, like I said, I don't drink alcohol. And I try not to have sugar. And I certainly don't buy candy bars. I hadn't bought candy bars in years and years and years and years, because sugar is like, I got a sugar high, and I'm like, not me. I'm not on myself. So you tried it, you couldn't succeed. Yeah, it's hard. That's a really hard thing to do. And at least I'll tell you, I was supported. I went to a 12-step group to help me do it. So don't think you're bad. If I hadn't gone to that 12-step group, I would not have gotten off sugar. So I didn't tell you that. So I'm gonna be honest. I had to go to a 12-step group. So I was with Greg. We were in a weekend. This is how the guy was. He saw me share on TikTok that I had a hard week. And he says, honey, I know you had a hard week. Let me take you to the beach for the weekend. You know what I mean? I mean, what's not to say that he's not all in, right? So he comes and he picks me up, and we're at on the weekend, we go to the beach, we're staying at the hotel right on the beach. And I went into the Dollar Tree and bought a candy bar. I don't buy candy bars. I mean, candy bars when I was younger was my drug of choice. Give me a candy bar. Let me have 2 or 3 chocolate candy bars. And I was dulled out, I didn't, so I didn't have to feel. So when I wanted to have that candy bar, because something in me was feeling, my invisible rule was kicking up. And I knew that I was not where I should be. You know what I mean? And I ate the candy bar. Oh, you love candy bars too? You showing lollipops. You like all kinds of candy. So I got the candy and I ate it. And I'm still not thinking anything's wrong. I'm on the weekend. I was like, boy, that's unusual. I got a candy bar. And then later on, we went to the store again. I got another candy bar, 2 candy bars. Oh. So then I come home on Monday. He goes back to Tallahassee. I come home, and I go to the store, and I buy chocolate-covered raisins and chocolate-covered almonds. And I'll tell you the kind of sugar sugar addict. Sugar that I am, Lisa, is if I start really eating sugar, I don't want to eat anything else. I don't want meat. I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat meat. I don't want to eat vegetables. I don't want to eat fruit. I mean, I want just sugar. I just want more. And that's where I was. I was just like, I'm not eating anything but sugar all day. Chocolate, and if you get a sugar high, you get a rush, and then you got to go get more. So I realized I was doing that. I was like, this is like how I was 30 years ago. And I was doing that because I was feeling my invisible rule about my relationship with my fiance. So then I was like, there's something really wrong. And this was the holiday. This was just before the holiday. And then we had New Christmas Eve together. And then we had but I started going to the meetings to get off of sugar. I got to get off of sugar. I was like, I can't be on sugar because I'm not going to work right. My head's not going to be clear. I have to have my head clear. I cannot have sugar. And so I went to start going to these meetings so that I wouldn't have sugar. And then once I stopped having sugar, I started seeing my invisible rule. Hi, Candy. How are you? Welcome. So I was like, then when you're not like whether it's alcohol, whether it's drugs, whether it's sugar, whether it's overeating, whether it's shopping, whatever it is that we do to not feel our feelings. And for me, it was eating the sugar so I did not have to feel my feelings. I did not want to feel my feelings. So when I stopped getting the sugar, I started feeling my feelings and I started seeing my invisible rule and I started seeing where I was lying to myself in the relationship. And, you stop seeing through rose-colored glasses. I started being honest with myself. I started being honest. And, even though we spent Christmas together and we spent New Year's Eve together, New Year's Day, I started seeing things that before I refused to see. And when I did that and not have sugar, it's like putting cold water in your face. It's like putting cold water in your face. It's like, oh my God, I have been living a lie. I have not been telling myself the truth. I've not been seeing things and I've been looking at everything through rose-colored glasses. And that's when I said, I have to have a 30-day break. And I had to have that 30-day break because I needed to see everything I needed to see and watch my behavior and watch how I behaved and be honest with myself and not tell myself a lie. Because how many of you are aware about oxytocin? Who knows what oxytocin is? I wrote a whole book on it. Who knows what oxytocin is? Can anybody tell me what you know what oxytocin is? Anybody? Oh, thanks, Anita. Anita's such a great. Linda said, I'm trying to do better by coming. I didn't see what she said. Nobody knows who. Yeah, feel good chemical. Okay, Donnie, gives euphoria. Isn't it the feel good hormone? Good. Love hormone. Yes. That's it. Yes. So when women, especially women, when we fall in love, we drop this chemical in our body. It's called oxytocin. And I've got lipstick on my, thank you. I'm always, look at that. Mm-hmm. Is it gone now? Thank you, Adeline. Terrible about that. Okay. So yeah. So we have oxytocin in our body. It's just like, it's a love drug. And then you see things through, you know how when you're in love, like la 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 la, the flowers, the this, the that. That's oxytocin. And you know that you don't see the truth because you're looking through oxytocin. You got like oxytocin. And if you, like me, I was molested as a child, we have more oxytocin than most people. That's why we bond. Oxytocin is what has us bond. So, after being by myself for 20 years, being celibate for 20 years, and then being with Greg, that oxytocin just blew. And I was immediately bonded to him. You could be trauma bond through oxytocin. The wrong person, yes, bestie. But I hadn't been, and I knew that about me, which is why I was celibate for 20 years, because I was like, Pamela, you can't go out here because you're going to bond. And if you bond to the wrong person, it's going to be bad for you. So I knew if you bond. But anyway, I listened to this coach and she said, go all in, meet somebody, go all in. And he happened to be handy. And the thing about him was he's still like that. He acts like a perfect gentleman. He you know how guys act like they want to put a move on you or be kind of suggestive or something like. He's none of that. He's just like very, you wouldn't even know what he's thinking. What he's thinking about. Once I learned what he was thinking, and then I know what he's thinking. I know now what he was thinking because we talk about it now. But I bond, and it was trauma bonding for me. Who's it that said trauma bonding? Bestie. Yeah, I trauma bonded with him. I did trauma bond with him, and he didn't know. He was just being him. Don't blame it on him. It's just like I trauma bonded because number one, I hadn't been with anybody in 20 years, and he happened to come along, and he looked like he was harmless. He looked like he was harmless. He looked harmless. He looked like a square. He looked like he, wasn't smooth, but he's scientifically smooth. He's like a scientifically smooth guy, But I bonded. And so there I was in this, like, he asked me how we want to spend the rest of my life together. Oh, well, we're going to get engaged and then we're going to do this and that. And he's like just doing his, just like, he's feeding me a line. And I had the conversation and like, okay, that's settled. This is what we're going to do. It is what we ended up doing, but it wasn't like what he planned. So he was in one place and I was another place. But oxytocin makes you see things through rose-colored glasses. Have you, any of you, something and then you get with them and then you they tell you whatever it is and you just believe them because the oxytocin, oh yeah, what was I thinking, And then when they leave, what happened? He did so-and-so, so-and-so. But when you have the oxytocin, it makes you love bombs you. So anyway, I had the oxytocin. And so I, in the beginning of January, said, I'm going to deal with the devil here. I'm going to deal with my invisible rule. And I am not going to have sugar. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Yeah, you ever know that? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to have sugar. I'm not going to overeat. I'm going to feel my feelings and I'm going to feel what it feels like to tell yourself a lie. How many of you want to sit down with yourself and tell yourself where you lied to yourself? Is that something any of you want to do? Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you want to sit down with yourself and be honest with yourself 100% and know what's really true about yourself, what you're doing? It's easy to point the finger at the guy, but you have to look at yourself. What are you doing, right? So I decided he's over there doing whatever he's doing, but I got to see where I betrayed myself. And that's what I did. For 30 days, I said, okay, here's, I'm going to be a businesswoman. I'm going to be a coach to myself. And I'm going to be honest. And I'm going to be honest about when you weren't being honest for yourself. Where did you go where you didn't advocate for yourself? Where did you go where you let oxytocin make the decision, but you weren't sober? Because you could be love drunk. And that's what happened. So anyway, when I did the 30 days, at the end of the 30 days, I was like, I'm not doing this at all. And I said, it's over. I hadn't even seen him. And I just said, no, I'm not doing this with you anymore. Don't contact me. I'm done. I'm not doing this with you. And of course, he wanted to know why. And it wasn't him. I mean, he happened to be there, but it was me. And I knew that that I had settled for what I didn't want. And that's how it was. So tomorrow, I'm going to tell you how we ended up back together. I will tell you tomorrow. So today, I wanted to tell you that part, that I was very naive and I had a lot of oxytocin. And when I didn't have oxytocin, I had sugar, I had candy bars, anything to push my feelings down so that I could have rose-colored glasses. And then when I stopped having the sugar and I stopped, I stopped letting oxytocin tell me what it wanted to tell me. Like I started looking like with real glasses, like, okay, what is really going on here? And a lot of times we don't want to do that. And the other thing is we have to be the one to do it. Nobody is going to say, look and see, hey, I'm going to really make sure that I take good care of you, Pamela. Nobody's going to do that but me. I'm the one to do it. We're the ones to do it. We are the ones that advocate and step up for ourselves. I don't think if I hadn't made a stand for me, I don't think we'd be together, because we're the person that we've got to say, this is how my life is going to be. This is how my life is going to be. And it's up to me. It's not up to him. And what am I going to allow? What am I going to allow in my life? Where am I headed? That is exactly why, because a lot of women keep saying, when are you going to get married? You're sinning. Well, I believe, I personally believe that, we are committed to each other, but I have to say that I am not getting married until I feel safe about getting married. Why should I get married when I don't feel safe? And when I say safe means that I know I, Pamela Deneuve, can take care of me financially, emotionally, and spiritually, not anybody else. Why would I give that away to anyone else? I always tell this is what I tell my clients. This is what I tell my clients. Because I talk to a lot of women about relationships and a lot of women about marriages and things like that, is men are not equipped to be in charge of the relationship. Men are not. They're not even made up to. Why do you think we are the ones that have the babies and we have the relationship? We are the relationship queens. But, men, they're not made to be in charge of the relationship. So if you say a relationship is like a Big Mac truck, like a big truck, and the man is going to drive the truck, it's like having a 3-year-old behind the wheel of a Mack truck. What is the ride going to be like if you're walking and you're in a truck, Mack truck, and the man is supposed to get you there safely? How's that going to work for you? Right? You're going here, you're going over there, you're going over the curb. A 3-year-old can't drive a truck. But yet we are in relationships and we get in the passenger seat and let the person who's like a 3-year-old drive the truck. We can't do that. So then we blame them. It's up to me, myself, and I to take care of myself financially, physically, and emotionally. I lived, my mother, God bless her soul, left this world at 41 because she allowed my father, the 3-year-old, to be in charge of the truck. Well, she ended up drinking herself to death because she couldn't be in charge. And my mother, she was like kind of like a housewife or something like that. And she would act like, can you give me a couple of cigarettes today, honey? Like begging. So no, it's up to us. And even emotionally, in this, the thing about, my fiance, he's never been abusive. He's never argued. He's never been unkind. He's been mad at me a few times, but I never saw it. He never showed me that he was mad at me. So, I was in a situation not where I wasn't in an abusive situation, but I still did not take care of me. I did not take care of me. I was expecting someone else to take care of me. And it's a very, very painful thing to do. So when I asked for the 30 days, I need 30 days off, that was me taking off the rose-colored glasses, no sugar, like facing the facts, like really taking off the rose-colored glasses and facing the facts. And it was very, very painful. It's painful to see when you betray yourself. It's painful when you see how you lied to yourself. It's painful when you see, that, you're trusting someone who, who's not trustworthy. Nobody else is trustworthy for you other than you. You're the only one that trusts yourself, right? So that's the deal here. So I had to face the truth. How many of you want to face the truth in your life, in your love life? How many? It's because it's hard. It's not easy and it's not fun, but you'll be better for it. So how many of you today say, okay, I'm going to tell myself the truth? And when you look and you tell yourself the truth, and look at yourself, not them. Like, what am I doing? What have I done? What have I allowed? How have I let things go by? Like, rather than ask the hard question, I'd rather assume rather than get the real answer. Just like me, we talked in our I don't think we were dating maybe 3 months or so when he asked me, 3 or 4 months, how would you like, in a real world, how would you like our relationship to turn out? And I'm like telling him, and he's like just feeding a line. and I like, my rose-colored glasses, and I just like assumed, okay, that's fine. All right, here we are. We're going to get engaged for a year. To this guy who's like been single for 20 years. He's like had women, like very affluent and all kinds of women, that wanted to marry him over the years. And he would, he knows how to sidestep all that. When he looked up with me and he was engaged, he didn't even. But, you have to look at, like, I did that. And, if is that the kind of engagement I want to have, or is that what I want to have? And so we had to start, in many ways, we had to start all over, and look at what has really happened. So, I want each of you to look at what your invisible rule is. Now, I have a sheet, it's like a checklist, I guess is a checklist. So you could get the checklist and answer the questions for yourself. Ask yourself these questions and check the questions on the box so you can assess yourself. So I'm giving that to you today. And if you can't find it on my profile, and if you're on Facebook, put if you're on rule invisible or rule, you just put that in the comments, and we'll message it. We'll message it to you. If you want to take the checklist to check yourself, check your invisible rule, go on my profile and find the checklist. And it's free. And just check all the answers, and then we will give you a score. And you'll see whether or not, what your invisible rule is. How many would you like to do that? So what you want to do if you're on Facebook, put, invisible, and we can attach it. Or even if you're on TikTok and if you want to message me, I will send you, if you don't go to my profile, I'll send you the checklist so you could check yourself out, answer the questions. Like when have I not been true to myself? When have I loved them more than I love me? Like those kind of questions you want to ask yourself. So say that and we will help. And then the next lives, Anita, I'll give it to you. And when they ask in the comments, we can give them the link to the rule. I'll get all that out. So let's see. Anybody has any comments here? Let's see. Her time now. That's why those levels spike in labor, so you can love the baby with everything in you. That's right. Oxytocin, that's so true. That is true. Okay. Did I miss anything, Anita? Anything else I need to talk about? Anita is our wonderful moderator. I think I don't know if I missed anything. So tomorrow, I didn't miss anything. Okay. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about what happened after the 30 days. What happened that I said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. So I will tell you what happened and how we ended up back together, because I was done. I was done because I was done with me. So I want you all to get your questionnaire, your checklist, and answer the questions. And we'll talk about all that later. So thank you all for joining me today. I'm doing the TikTok Lives on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 7 p.m. And, we're coming up to the 4th of July. Greg is going to take me away for the weekend. We're going to go somewhere. So, yeah. Thank you, Anita. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Lisa, for being here. We said we're going to one day go on a cruise. Tara, thank you. I didn't see you here. Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Well, I'll be here tomorrow and Wednesday. Greg went back home. It's interesting. When a guy gets a good woman, he starts making more money and having more success. So he's got, he's kind of like just coasting along in his business. Now he's getting all kinds of new business and stuff. So he had to go to be in his office tomorrow. So anyway, he's gone. So I have a couple of days alone in my own house. I love my house. I love being home. So it's kind of nice. I mean, he's here. He was here. We came here Sunday. Well, no, we came here Saturday. So we were here Saturday, Sunday, and then today, this afternoon, he left. So he's going to be gone Tuesday, Wednesday, probably come back here on Thursday. And then on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we're going to go away to, we've gone to the villages. We like this. So anyway, so stay tuned. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about how I completely, why after the 30 days that I completely left the relationship and how I ended up back. So see you all tomorrow. Thank you, Anita. We appreciate you. Take care. Bye-bye, everybody. See ya.